Terveiset taas täältä messuilta ja msonicilta. Yhdysvaltalaiset ovat tunnettuja avaruusrakettien rakentamisesta ja useasta onnistumisesta myös samalla alueella. Universal Audio on rakentanut jo toisen Apollon, Apollo 16. Lev. Hello, Lev.
Hello, how are you?
What's new at the show?
Good question. Well, last year we announced Apollo,
Yes.
which was a breakthrough product because it had amazing sound quality, had low latency plugins, real-time UAD we called it, and the first Thunderbolt interface. Now at Meso, exactly 1 year later, we're showing Apollo 16. Apollo 16 is built on the same principles. It's amazing sounding conversion, real-time UAD processing, Thunderbolt ready. But the big thing, the 16 is 16 analog inputs and outputs. So the original Apollo had mic preamps, headphone outs. It had a little bit of everything, only 8 analog I/O.
Yes.
This has now got twice the analog power. So it's a little bit more, geared towards the professional studio or somebody with tons of outboard analog gear, maybe a mixing console. And they really want to integrate all of these nice things, these analog pieces, into their digital studio. Apollo 16 is the perfect product for them. If you're a songwriter or a remixer, DJ, maybe the Apollo is a little bit better because it's got more tools. It's got the preamps, it's got headphone amplifiers, ADAT and SPDIF, so has more of like the general connectivity that you might need. But for the big studios or for the person who's got an investment in analog gear, it's perfect because you've already got the mic preamps in the console or in a rack. Maybe you've got a headphone or a cue system. So this is a nice centerpiece to be able to plug all of that in. The other thing that's very nice is the ability to stack them. So we have 2-unit support where you can get up to 32 channels of analog I/O. That's coming in a software update for Apollo as well. So Apollo, you'll be able to stack 2 of them and get 16 channels of analog I/O and more digital I/O. So that's the family. It's the big announcement is the new product, and customers have been asking us for more analog I/O, and that's what this gives them.
It's also just for me also.
There you go.
That's what I'm wanting.
Yes, me
my home
too.
studio.
Developing Apollo was a lot of fun because we got to really think of how people are using things and what they need to be able to make music.
Yes.
But yes, there's not enough I/O there for me because I've got a bunch of mic pre's, a bunch of synthesizers.
Yes.
I want to do outboard summing. All that stuff can be
Yes.
done very beautifully with an Apollo 16 or 2 of them if you'd like.
Yes. What about the software?
Great question. So on the screen here we have the new console software, and the console software, just like the original Apollo, shows you all of the inputs. You have the ability to load up our plugins in real time. So here you can see I've got a very beautiful Cambridge EQ, maybe a nice compressor, maybe if you're looking for like the SSL channel strip, maybe a Fairchild, all of the vintage emulations and all of the new school emulations. Yeah, there you go. Can be brought up live on input, and you can track through them with no latency. It's like having a mixing console and a rack of outboard gear.
How about the sound of the plugins? Are they just another copy of the plugins that everybody can say that we have SSL, we have whatever?
Yeah, well, we like to think that everybody else is a copy of us because we were actually the first ones to do, physical models of the vintage analog gear, the LA2A, the 1176, going back over 12 years now.
Yes.
We were the first ones to put that in software. Now the entire industry is flooded with plugins, and that's okay. There's some very nice plugins.
Graphics and everything.
Yeah, graphics and algorithms. But what we get into is a little bit different than most. We use physical modeling, and it's a process whereby we recreate every single component of the original hardware in software.
Yes.
So if there's a transformer in the hardware, there's a transformer model in the software. So it acts and behaves and sounds just like the original hardware, and that's what sets us apart. We're very, very meticulous about the details. We have our DSP. Our DSP is dedicated. A lot of companies end up cutting corners because these algorithms are so beefy and so huge that they hurt the host computer. They make it crash or something. With our dedicated DSP, we take all that DSP to make sure that the algorithm is correct and sounds just like the originals. So if you were to plug a microphone into either of these products and go through a Fairchild or an LA2A, it sounds like you're plugging it in through an LA2A, and that's the most important thing.
Yes.
So definitely we are known for making the best emulations on the market. With Apollo and Apollo 16, you have both the option to record through them, either destructively or non-destructively, and also to use as plugins inside of your DAW. So, AU, RTAS, VST, you put these plugins in your DAW, you can edit, mix, and master with them.
How is the latency of the plugins when you record in?
Great question. It's sub 2 milliseconds. So
Sub 2,
sub
meaning
2.
minus less than 2 milliseconds.
It's about 1.1 milliseconds at 96K.
Yes.
96K is the standard for which everybody
Yes.
specs their audio interface. It's about 2 milliseconds at 48K. So 2 milliseconds is the equivalent of moving a microphone back 2 feet. Basically, there is no latency.
Yes.
And the reason that we talk about the spec is because it's unheard of with plugins.
Yes.
If you're in a DAW and you set the buffer to say 32 samples, best case scenario, and then you start stacking plugins, you're going to be at like maybe 4 or 5 milliseconds.
Yeah.
And if you go up to a higher buffer, forget about it. You can't do it.
Yes.
So that's why you always have to not track with plugins. With Apollo, you can track with plugins, sub 2 millisecond
Yes.
latency, about 2 millisecond latency at 48K, and it just sounds and feels incredible.
Great.
Absolutely.
What about the original Apollo? Can you talk about the original Apollo which came out last year?
Is an incredible product. Again, I talked about the core of the product is all about great sound quality.
Yep.
We took about 3 years to develop the product. We staged multiple listening tests to find the best converters, to find the best analog stage that we could to make it sound completely transparent. We wanted it to be something that was a chameleon, right? It could be anything, because what you do is you put these plugins on the input, and then it takes on the characteristic of these vintage analog pieces of gear.
That's the beauty.
So you could have a tape machine, you could have a vintage compressor, an amazing EQ, a tube-based Pultec. All the incredible plugins that we make is what the converter sounds like. So that was the first thing. But then yes, it was all about solving a bunch of problems. Like not everybody's got like an outboard mic pre or a little headphone amp or any of these convenient things.
Yeah.
So Apollo has all that built in. It has 4 mic preamps,
Yeah.
2 high-Z inputs. This is a JFET DI, an amazing sounding DI. 2 dedicated headphone amps with their own D to A. So you
And all mixes.
They can have their own mixes, or they can very easily, with a click of a button, just mirror whatever's on the monitor. So
Yes.
very easy to set up. The monitor outputs are digitally controlled analog.
Right.
So what this means is that when you turn down the gain, you're not doing it in the digital domain. When you turn down something in the digital domain, you lose resolution.
Yes.
You're actually chopping off bits.
Yeah.
With Apollo, it does not do that. Same with Apollo 16, all digitally controlled analog on the outputs. So a very, very beautiful monitor section, headphone amp. In the software, it's very similar to Apollo 16 software. You have all that you need to be able to set up a low latency Q mix, to record through the UAD plugins in real time, and to be able to just route things in a very intuitive way so that you always hear sound and it's very quick to track to any DAW that you like. A little loud over there. The front panel is very beautiful. All of the LEDs are individually shrouded. There's no bleed, no hotspots. So when it's running, it looks like a screen more than like a bunch of LEDs. So very, very beautiful, very, very fun to use. All of this stuff, because it is digitally controlled, can actually be controlled from software. So as you see, I'm turning the knob here, and it updates there. And if I go to the software, you can see it's updating in real time. So why this is a big deal is because you don't have to have the interface right in front of you to be able to control the monitoring or even the preamps.
Yeah.
Because the preamps have their digital control as well.
Yes.
And last, there is an amazing plugin that we made that goes along with the console called the Console Recall plugin. You put that in your DAW, and you hit the sync button, and then the session saves all of this. So you
For any DAW?
For any DAW. AU, VST, or RTAS, you just put the plugin in, hit the sync button, and you don't have to worry about, did I save that file of the console?
Yes.
Did I put that with the session? You don't worry about that.
Just keep your analog console faders even.
Or whatever you want, right? So
Yeah.
the great thing is if you track a session today and you set up a couple of plugins and maybe a reverb for a nice headphone mix, you don't have to worry about, did I save that? Or, I wonder what I used that day.
Yes.
Use the recall plugin, hit the sync button, save the session, open it up a year later. This console comes up exactly the way it was with total recall. So that's a good overview of Apollo. Amazing sound quality, great integration with plugins, great low latency tracking, and then you have the ability to totally integrate it into your DAW with our console recall plugin.
And there is also one thing to mention. We have delivered quite many of the Apollos in Finland.
Yes.
And honestly, we haven't got any back to the service. How is this possible? Because normally something can happen.
So in terms of the build quality, in terms of the standards of how we build them,
Yes.
Very, very, we call it high yield, but it's the quality is very good. Again, 3 years in the making, a lot of troubleshooting went into how we can make and manufacture these things reliably, how we can get the converters sounding great. So just in general, Universal Audio is very well known for making hardware. We make all of the vintage pieces, the LA2A, the 1176, the 610s. So we take our hardware development very seriously, and we try to deliver the highest quality product that we can to customers. So very happy to hear that
Yes.
it's going well for you guys.
I think your service people are quite lazy. They don't have anything to do.
No, they are, in the case where something does go wrong, they're the best in the business for
Yes.
making sure that
Yeah.
customers are happy, making sure that we have replacement parts if we need them, but definitely this product has performed incredibly well.
Yes.
Less than 1% failure rate
Yes.
worldwide, and there are many thousands of them out in the market now,
Yes.
so we're very happy about that.
Thank you, Lev.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Kiitos.